Hey folks, Matt Wilson here with this weekend's video, or videos, as I think I'm going to do too. I'm doing the MC5 first, the legendary, Michigan proto-punk, proto-metal, whatever you want to call them, high-velocity rock band from the late 60s, early 70s. Only did 3 albums, so I will cover all of those, and then the Babes and Arbs compilation, and that's it. I don't really have any of the members' solo stuff. I'm a fan, as you can see. Got the shirt, got that Gary Grimshaw poster, which is pretty cool. I know the glare is on there, but that's a poster that, Grimshaw was the main artist who did the posters for the Grandy Ballroom. And he was good friends with Rob Tyner, who was also an artist originally in his pre-MC5 career, and that's a poster from one of their San Francisco shows, right? Yeah, at the Straight Theater. I'm gonna say 68. Anyways, so let's start. The discography is small, so we have Kick Out the Jams from 1969, recorded in October of 1968. This is totally high octane, maximum velocity. You can call it punk rock, but it's not. This is political, and it's good. You can hear their R&B roots. That's why it's not really metal either. I don't really have an issue with people calling the 5 punk or metal. Each camp, would be proud to claim them. This is, to me, it's just very much of its time. It's very much of, Detroit, and later on they were Ann Arbor. They had really cool artwork. That would be a cool poster too. You had Rob Tyner on vocals, and then Fred Sonic Smith on rhythm guitar, brother Wayne Kramer on lead guitar. Although by the end, like in High Time, Wayne was not doing all the leads. Dennis on drums, and Michael Davis on bass. Opinions vary as to Michael's ability as a bass player, which we'll get to that when we get to Back in the USA. This is a great album, though. This if you wanted to make a case that this was the loudest, most raucous live album released in the 60s, I don't know what else anybody could put up. Maybe Jerry Lee Lewis at the Star Club a few years before this, but this has all the guitar, Ramblin' Rose has those, really high falsettos, but it's a great way to kick off the album. Kick Out the Jams is still to this day their most famous song. I'm trying to think before I started this video who has covered that. I know Blue Oyster Cult did. I can't think of too many cover versions, but I bet you that there are. The LP version has the Motherfuckers line. The 45 mix has the Brothers and Sisters line. Of course, you want to hear the LP version, but who was going to play that on the radio, right? I'm struggling to think if I've ever heard that on the radio. Well, just the censored version. I'm not positive I have, although it's possible I have. Come Together is all right. Rocket Reducer number 62, which is better known as Rama Lama Fa Fa Fa. That's a cool one. Borderline, I think that starts side 2 on the original vinyl. Motor City is Burning is not one of their originals, but it sounds like it could be, right? I Want You Right Now is just more of, Rob's sex trip, if he wrote the lyrics. I don't know. And then Starship, to me, would be the filler track on here. But, this, before I started the show in the last week, I was looking up various sites online ranking the MC5 albums, and this comes up as the best MC5 album more than any other one. So there you go. You make this your first choice if you haven't picked up any of their albums, or listen to it on Spotify. I assume that they're on Spotify. All right, so 1969, Kick At the Jams is probably the album which most epitomizes the MC5. And is it the MC5 or MC5? I always say the MC5. So, but on their album covers, there's no article. It's just MC5. Okay, Back in the USA came out in 1970. It was recorded in 69. The rock critic John Landau had taken over from John Sinclair. I should mention John Sinclair earlier. John Sinclair was a political activist, and he managed the band, you know, at the time of the first album. He got into trouble with the law, and he also formed the White Panther Party, who was just like an adjunct, or if you even call it that, helpers of the Black Panthers, although I don't know how many things that they actually helped the Black Panthers with. I think it was mostly just like a little, you know, political arm to keep John Sinclair out of jail. But I'm not an expert, you know. I mean, but I did, you know what, now's the time, while I'm in the middle of their discography. This is the only book I've read on the band, an oral biography of rock's most revolutionary band, MC5. I liked it. I mean, it was a quick read, and so that's where I'm getting most of my stuff from, but I'm having to remember, you know, what I read. Anyways, so they kind of grew tired of Sinclair and how he was taking the money, you know, to fund his White Panther Party. So by the time of Back in the USA, they had latched on to another father figure / manager, whatever you want to call it, producer here, John Landau, who had no experience producing music. He was, like I said, just a rock critic and a film critic too, if you read all of, you know, old Rolling Stone magazines. So his idea was to kind of neuter their sound, although he wouldn't use that word. This is a very kind of treble heavy record. Which reminds me, Michael Davis, the bass player, whom Landau did not find up to par, is not even on this record, from what I understand. Wayne Kramer did the bass parts, but the guitar is not nearly as loud and raucous and in your face as it is on Get the Jams. Having said that, though, the original songs on here are probably my favorite clutch of MC5 songs on any of the 3 records. It starts off with Tutti Frutti, the Little Richard number, which they don't do that song that well. I don't know why. That was, you know, and that's what they chose to start the album with. But Tonight, Teenage Lust, Looking at You. Looking at You was originally a 45, but they had done, I'll get to that when I get to Babes in Arms. You know, a couple of years before this, if not more. I don't remember if it came out in 68 or 67. Most people who write about that song prefer that version. I like this version better. Maybe it's because it's the first one I ever heard, but High School is all right. Call Me Animal, American Ruse for sure. Shakin' Street, the great Fred Smith song. Might be my favorite song on the album. Human Being Lawnmower. I love those cuts, right? So, yeah, this does contain my favorite batch of MC5 material, but I can't really get behind the production. They just sound like they've been cut off at the knees, you know? But I'm used to it. I mean, growing up, this was my favorite MC5 album. It might still be, but see, now I put those little caveats in there. It's not the sound of the songs. It's the songs themselves. Would have liked to have heard these songs live, right? Okay, so there you go. Back in the USA. 1971. 3 years in a row, 3 albums. We have High Time. It took the longer time for this album to grow on me than the first 2. With the first 2 I found pretty accessible, you know, the first time I ever heard them. This is another great album, though. You know, Sister Ann is my favorite cut on here. It's a Fred Smith tune, but, you know, Rob sings it. Baby Won't You, I think that's another Fred. So this is the first one, I think, or the only one, where they get individual, writing credits. Hold on, let me say that, because I hate making comments on these videos that I later find out to be inaccurate. Oh no, yeah, all songs written by MC5, right. So, yeah, so High Time is the first album where there's individual songwriting credits. All members of the band write at least a number or 2 on here, but Fred writes half the album. He writes 4 songs. Miss X is my least favorite song on here, but the rest of them is all killer. Gotta Keep Moving, Future Now. I don't even mind the now part of that song. Poison over and over, and then Skunk, sonically speaking, another Fred song. It's good. It's not as in your face as Kick Up the Jams, but it's not, you know, it doesn't have that iffy production value that Back in the USA does either. So this is a nice middle ground LP between the first two. All right. It might be my least favorite, but it's still good. It's still solid. And yeah, there are people, since there's only 3 albums, as you can assume, there are folks who think this is the best album. All right. So High Time, 1971. All right. Growing up in the 70s, these albums weren't the easiest to find. In 83, which is the year I graduated from high school, Babes in Arms came out. It was on cassette in those days. This is a solid, this is good enough, folks, to rank it alongside the 3 main albums. Most of the stuff that's on here, though not everything, is in a different version than what you find on the first 3 LPs. You also get stuff which you can only get here. Well, Shakin' Street, the first cut, that's like an acoustic version, so it sounds totally different than the one that's on Back in the USA. But they put Tutti Frutti on here again. It's weird. Poison, I Can Mean Tonight, Kick the Jam, Sister Ann, Future Now, Go. Gold is a song that they recorded in 72 after High Time. I wish I could say it was better, but it's just, you know, it's okay. I can only give you anything is the Them song, you know, the Van Morrison song, which a lot of other bands covered too. Isn't that the da-na-na-na? Beck, you know, the 90s singer-songwriter, he sampled that on one of his songs on, I think, Odelay, I don't remember. One of the guys is, that's an early pre-Kick Up the Jams song. I just don't know. And then the original 45 mix of Looking at You. Now would be a good time to also bring up, there's a movie about the MC5, only you can't see it. It was made by these guys, I don't know, 10 years ago, more than 10, in the 2010s, if not the 2000s. Let's just say 2010s for argument's sake. And Wayne Kramer is all over that movie. He's walking them through. It's like a documentary with lots of old footage. Anyways, Wayne decides after the film's finished, he doesn't want to license the music to these guys. So it was never released. I have a bootleg CDR, which played just fine for years. Now when I put it in my players, it doesn't play. That's a problem I have with old DVDRs. But it's really a shame because it's a real good movie. You know, I doubt there's ever going to be a better MC5 documentary, especially as they're all dead now. And, you know, Wayne contributed heavily to this movie, so I don't know why you can't see it. But anyways, that kind of rounds it out. There's not much to say. There are other MC5 releases. There's Breakout 66, but I can't. I'm only going to really recommend the 4 that I showed you. I've already done a Stooges show. I'm not going to say the MC5 made records as good as the Stooges, but the Stooges have received their due. You know, they're better known now amongst rock historians, fans than the MC5. You see their albums turning up more on lists of greatest albums of all time. I'm here to tell you the MC5 are worth your attention too. They're worth being remembered. And they're fun, you know? So, real short video. I'm gonna do another video on Janis Joplin next. Also gonna be short. So, hope you enjoyed it. Say something in the comments. So few of you do. Matt Wilson signing out.